Hi, I'm Battalion Chief David Hutchison with the Virginia Beach Fire Department. Today I'd like to talk to you some about hoarding.
In 2006, due to an unfortunate event involving a tragic fire, the City of Virginia Beach established the Hoarding Support Services Team in an effort to address the needs of individuals at risk in the community from hoarding behaviors. A definition for hoarding is the excessive collection and retention of things or animals until they interfere with day-to-day functions, such as home, health, family, work, and social life, which in severe cases causes safety and health hazards. It is estimated that older adults represent a significant number of people that hoard. Hoarding behavior is seen in various illnesses and therefore difficult to place in any one diagnostic category. Intervention without cooperation can lead to the development of other dangerous behaviors. Careful assessment of each situation is essential for a successful outcome.
Research has shown that to be effective, intervention needs to be collaborative. This effort needs to include the adult, family and other agencies, code enforcement, animal control, and emergency response personnel.
It is important to note that the team's goal is to aid citizens. A key point to remember is, provided there is no criminal, civil, and building code infraction, the citizen has every right to refuse intervention. Resolving the hoarding behaviors reduces risk to the individual, to surrounding households, and to first responders who may be called to the home for a fire, EMS, police, or code enforcement response. This video will outline the flow chart for addressing a hoarding case.
Additionally, this video will help first responders and concerned citizens identify hoarding behaviors.
This is Officer Dolly Deans. How can I help you?
Master Police Officer Dolly Deans will share with us the police procedures required in such cases.
Majority of the officers are responding to something entirely different. Maybe domestic, maybe something involving a medical issue, and they arrive on the scene, and when they arrive and the door opens, and then you see. Normally most households will say, oh, the homeowner will say something like this, excuse the mess. But clearly when you walk into the home, you're going to see something over the top as far as the clutter or the mess. And usually you're going to start walking in the house, and it's literally a pathway to walk through, and where there's mounds of whatever, laundry or whatever it happens to be. It is important when an officer arrives on the scene and you're able to determine that there is a hoarding case, you need to contact Adult Protective Services. Most importantly, if there's any form of hazards to the family living in that home, you must make the call immediately.
Hoarding presents a unique hazard to both fire and EMS personnel.
In May of 2006, fire crews were dispatched to a house fire where 2 elderly citizens lived. There was excessive hoarding, and unfortunately both occupants perished in the event. Virginia Beach Fire Department Captain James Todd shares with us the dangers and hazards that hoarding presents.
We were dispatched to a residential fire on Lark Street, engine 16 and ladder 16, engine 20, squad 3, engine 7, I do believe. Anyway, we arrived on the scene. We were the 3rd truck here, and when we arrived, there was heavy fire coming out of the den part of the structure. The hose line crew kept the fire in check, and we conducted a primary search, starting a right-hand search down the hallway. Come across a wheelchair in the hallway, and there was nothing in the wheelchair, so I moved that. And on the other side of the wheelchair, we found the female resident over on the floor to the right-hand side of the bedroom entrance, and then on the left bedroom entrance, we found the male resident. And in this situation here, they had a couple grocery carts that were in the living room area. We had a tremendous amount of items throughout the house, and even in the back bedrooms, there were a lot of items stacked up 2, 3, 4 feet high, in the bedroom. So that definitely contributed to not only the fire attack, but it hampered some of the rescue efforts as well. It's a tremendous burden on us, not only finding the seat of the fire sometimes, but also conducting searches to find, make sure there's no animals, make sure there's no people in the structure. So when you start talking about the hoarding and just being a pack rat, it's a real burden on us when it comes time to search a residence.
Caseworker Carrie Raleigh interviewed a citizen whose collection of items has grown over a number of years and in many ways has began to affect his life and his relationships.
This particular gentleman, as far as is not your typical hoarding client. He has virtually no friends because he feels that he cannot include them in his entire life. He can only talk to people outside of his neighborhood or his home.
I don't want to victimize myself. I've done this to myself. I will say that if my sister can't come in the house, and she's frankly quite angry with me because she couldn't stay in my house. But I'm not a victim. I'm actually the one that caused it. So, a victim, I think, is somebody that wants to feel that somebody else did something to them.
He goes out to dinner almost every day because he's unplugged his stove for safety purposes. He will use his microwave for microwave dinners. Otherwise, he does takeout or goes out to a restaurant to eat.
There's some very big concerns about the volume of what I've got is actually stopping me from either using something that I've already bought, or it's stopping me from being able to find something. So therefore I have to go out and I have to spend money again to either buy it or I have to do without it.
We often think of hoarding in terms of items or belongings such as newspapers, electronics, books, clothes, and other such items. Animal control works to balance health, safety, and welfare needs of the people and animals in our city. Animal control officers must be mindful that while hoarding items like televisions, antiques, and other personal effects are related to one type of hoarding,
The hoarding of animals is a very serious problem.
from the Code Enforcement Office, Lynn Roundtree explains what steps should be taken when a possible hoarding case is at hand.
Well, I think we mainly look for life safety type issues. Whether a person could easily get outside of a structure if something was to happen, a fire or any other type of incident, whether they could get to a window, whether they could get to a door, whether they have passage from one room to another, whether the items that are in there are life treasures or they're just stacks of old newspapers, other type of combustible materials that if a fireman had to go in there would increase the flame spread or hinder their operation of rescuing someone or putting a fire out.
So what do you do as a Virginia Beach first responder in dealing with hoarding situations?
As a member of the Virginia Beach Emergency Response System, we are considered mandated reporters. The state of Virginia requires we report any and all incidents where abuse, neglect, or exploitation is observed.
In some instances, hoarding is a form of self-neglect. There are 3 key components you should complete when hoarding or self-neglect is observed.
First, make a visual assessment of the living conditions. Check for reasonable and safe access to main points of entrance and exit. Next, make a mental comparison to the hoarding example seen here. Determine what level of hoarding exists. Then, follow the hoarding notification flowchart.
When an ERS provider observes a hoarding case that does not pose a threat to a child, an animal, an elderly, or disabled adult, you should continue the case as normal.
At your first opportunity, be certain to contact the fire marshal's office via email. The email should contain the residential address and the level of hoarding found. Also, annotate your incident report to reflect the potential hoarding hazards. The fire marshal's office will notify dispatch and have them add comments to the CAD, alerting future first responders of potential hazards due to hoarding. These notes may be your first line of defense when responding to this address in the future.
We have identified 3 other scenarios that will require additional steps. When you observe a possible hoarding case that involves an animal, a child, or an elderly adult, you must request that dispatch contact the appropriate agencies. Complete your typical duties related to the initial response, and you must remain on scene until released by the appropriate authorities.
At your first opportunity, be certain to contact the fire marshal's office via email.
With your help, we can provide the best proactive care possible for our citizens. This is everyone's responsibility. It's just another way we ensure everyone goes home safe.